She coordinated Women and Astronomy Working Group of SEA. She was a committee member of Women in Physics of Real Sociedad Española de Física, and also she was part of the CSIC Commission of Women in Science, and she won a prize for her working equity in science in Iran. And okay, with this, we can.
Thank you. Thank you very much. This is a two-in-one, as like in Carrefour today. And first of all, my apologies because my English is not good enough to be able to talk about things that are not related to astronomy, as you will see. But anyway, I'll try to do my best. So the title of the talk, which is completely not formal, so you can stop me whenever you want to ask or comment something. Of course, that's the idea, I think, in this kind of meetings. Is astronomy a women thing? A women thing? So I'll try to answer to this question throughout the talk. And so the first thing doesn't work. El mouse está aquí. ¿Y dónde es para allá? Para allá. Good, thank you.
Ay, perdón, a ver ahora. ¿Te funciona?
No, but it always works this way. It's easier. It doesn't matter. Okay. I can do it just with my fingers.
Okay.
So is astronomy a women's thing? So first of all, we all would have the idea of answering, of course it is, because it's a question of making research in general. So why not? If our brains are similar, comparable, everything. So yes, of course it is. On the other side, on the right side, we would have no, it's not, because we all know that, I don't know if you see clearly the design, but it's a woman trying to escalate a ladder where there is a ceiling, a glass ceiling. So that's, we all are aware or should be aware of the glass ceiling. Its existence is demonstrated with numbers and with many studies already been. I mean, it's not an invention anywhere. So we could have the tendency of being very mad about that and answering no, it's not a women's thing. But I prefer to think that it depends, so we will see, okay? And the outline of the talk is more or less what you see here. Then first I will start with something that it's called Astronomy Feminine Singular. You will see why. Then I'll make a brief overview of women in history, very brief. And then the connections of women with the four waves in feminism, just to have an idea of what we're talking about in different periods of history. And then mostly will be devoted to the present time and the context in which we all are, and women in particular, and to try to answer this question of is astronomy a women's thing, and so what? So let's see. What's this thing of astronomy feminine singular? So all what I'm going to talk to you was inspired by a book by Jaël Nazé in 2006, which is called L'Astronomie au féminin. And that's a very interesting book that I strongly recommend you to read. It's written in French, but anyway, I don't know if there's already a translation to English. And then it's the second edition, and to the right, L'Astronomie au féminin in 2014. It's very interesting. And in fact, this book starts saying, who discovered an exceptional large number of comets and asteroids? Who made possible to organize the stellar populations? And the ladder to measure the universe. And it also says, if asked for citing a historical astronomer, we think about Galileo, Copernico, or Hubble. I'm not there to ask you this question, but I'm sure what the answer will be. But throughout the centuries, women have had limited access to science in general and astronomy in particular. So the question poses, is this a reason to take for granted the total absence of their contributions? We are talking about the beginning of this century. Then later on, we had the International Year of Astronomy in 2009, in which one of the pillars were women astronomer. She is an astronomer. You see that the logo. And in fact, one of the goals was to try to improve and increase the visibility of women making astronomy. And one of the things we started to do with a multidisciplinary group of people working in that pillar. And it was quite interesting for us to start knowing the situation and making many things. So Coming back to the answer of the provided by Jaël Nazé's book. So some names here. Caroline Herschel, she discovered many comets. Annie Jam Cannon, she made the classification of star populations. I'll say something more later on. Henrietta Leavitt, to measure the universe, you will see how. Cecilia Pinel-Gapochin with the stellar interiors, and Vera Rubin with dark matter, and Jocelyn Bell with pulses. There are some names of people that should be as well known as the male astronomers we are all aware of. What we did in Spain in the national pillar for She is an Astronomer was to, in the first place, to make a calendar in which we named every month with the name of a well-known astronomer, and we provided the information of why these women astronomer should be known. But I'll just give the names for you to if you don't know them, please go ahead and try to look for the information. I won't do that here. But there's just, for instance, Wang Zeni, an astronomer, a Chinese astronomer from the 18th century. Hypatia de Alejandría, much older than that. You all know because of the thank you, Amenábar, for the film. We have also Annie Jam Cannon, Wilhelmina Fleming, Maria Kirsch, Henrietta Leavitt, as I already said, Nicole de Pot, Cecilia Pine, Caroline Herschel, Fatima de Madrid, in the mean ages, in even not Spain, not yet, Maria Mitchell and Paris Bismuth. We decided to consider women astronomers from the past for obvious reasons, but just not to leave apart, I mean, make a difficult decision. But I strongly recommend you at least to have a look on what these women did. And we also have our own pioneers in Spain. I'm not sure that you all are aware of their existence. We had the opportunity of making an interview with them, with the two of them that unfortunately died both in the year of astronomy in 2009, but we were able to register their contributions. That's an impressive document. And there were Antonia Ferrin from Santiago de Compostela and Asunción Catalapoch. I expect you are better aware of this, of the role of these women, especially Asunción Catalapoch, Catalanian women, who was teacher of of the next generation of astronomers here in Spain in general and in Catalonia in particular, just in case you were not aware of that. So just a little bit on how these, I've selected let's say 4 or 5 women connected to the 4 waves of feminism. I'm not aware if you all know which are these ways, but since this is an informal thing, it's just for you to, just in case you were not aware of that. So the first one is in the time of the Illustration, and there are some women there. I don't know if you see the names because they're tiny. So they're Mary Wollstonecraft, Harriet Taylor, Olympe de Gouges, French women, Poulain de Bar, Émile de Châtelet. I'll just use one of these women here just to extract some of their words, just for you to know what about in every period. In the second one, we have the suffragette. So we have many of them: Virginia Woolf, Flora Tristan, Clara Zetkin, Emanuela Portier, Emma Goldman, Elizabeth Cady, Sojourner Lucrecia Wood, Carmen de Burgos in Spain, and Clara Campoamor. And in the third wave, it was after the 68, starting when women during the Second World War were used for working and every work, just demonstrating that they were very capable of doing whatever, including traditionally men's businesses. And you have many women there, among them, for instance, Simone de Beauvoir, whose work, if you haven't read the Second Sex, I strongly recommend to read it. And the fourth and last one is the wave is when Me Too. So we are included in that wave. We all here. So what I tried to do is just to pick up one astronomer for each of these 4 ways. And in the first one, was the period where women were supposed to exist in terms of being sister of, daughter of, or married with. Okay, so they didn't exist as themselves, but just as a function of the position with respect to a man. And in that period, there is a volunteer to raise a hand and to say that women were also citizens, so citizeness. And it was, here I selected words by Olympe de Bouche, and she said, woman has the right to mount to the scaffold. She must equally have the right to mount to the rostrum, which seems quite logical, but it wasn't at the period. At that period, we had in France, equality, fraternity, and freedom. But all these three things were concerning citizens. So let's read men citizens, okay? And women weren't allowed to go to the parliament, for instance, but they were allowed to be killed, right? So that's what she says. And so I have selected Caroline Herschel, who made a catalog of the nebula, that had been observed by William Herschel and herself in a series of sweeps, with 2,500 nebula. She was the first woman to have a salary as an astronomer assistant, even if her work was similar to her brothers. And in fact, she was the very first woman to get the gold medal of the Royal Astronomical Society in England. And so she made a remarkable work. I'm not going to go into the details, but just to make you know that in case you don't know, please have a look on that and read it, with a very interesting history. Then in the second wave, the most important thing here is that women are saying that they exist by themselves, not in terms of their fathers or their brothers or their husbands, right? So I take the words by Virginia Woolf here, where she said that there is no gate, no lock, no bolt that you can set up above the freedom of my mind. And I have selected here two women from the Harvard's observatory, and these are Henrietta Leavitt and Annie Cannon, who has they have a picture together. They were both deaf, and they made incredible contributions to astronomy. And just to give you some details, very fast, Henrietta Leavitt was able to enormously increase the scale in which we were able to measure distances, going from parallaxes that allowed to measure up to of the order of 60 light years to get the Cepheids distances, which were about 20 million in Spanish light years. Taking into account that there is a relationship between the period of variability of these Cepheids and the apparent brightness. So it can be a relation with the absolute magnitude and you get the distance from. So you have the relation there. She was almost a Nobel Prize, and I say almost because she was announced someone proposed her for a Nobel Prize. So in that period, the communications were not as fast as today. 4 years after her death, so it was a pity, and she didn't got the Nobel, of course. Then I don't know, I guess that you all have studied this relationship. In my times when I was at the university, we knew that as the period luminosity relation. It was the name. I don't know if it is still the name, but it should be the Leavitt's law, the same as it is the Hubble's law, right? Because thanks to this relation, Hubble was able to establish their own one later on. I don't know if it's still the case, but it should be. I mean, I always say that it should be called the Leavitt's law. Then we have Annie Cannon, who made the simplest work of classifying more than 300,000 stellar spectra. And in fact, she made the catalog that when you go to a library, there are still books, written books, I mean, true books. And when you get there and you open the first page and you see the catalog that I'm sure you all are aware of the Henry Draper catalog, right? The HD number for name for stars. It was Annie Cannon who made the catalog. And when you open it, you see catalog made by Annie Cannon. But all the stars are called HD, so Henry Draper, because he was the one who paid for making the catalog. And nobody of us normally, I mean, not very many people is aware that the catalog was made by that woman in particular. And thanks to them, because she made the catalog, but not only the catalog, she also proposed a classification of the stellar spectra, the one we all know, OBAFGKM, that was used later to establish the stellar physics. Okay, so I think that she deserves to be known. The third wave is when women say that the personal is political, because normally the women were devoted to personal things, just to homework and things like that, but political were just for men. So in that period, in that feminist wave, women say, no, we want personal to become political. And then I haven't taken words for feminists. I've taken words from an astronomer that I'm sure you all know, Vera Rubin, who said that obstacles are simply theirs and are to be conquered, not feared. She had an extremely interesting life that I suggest you to read about. And in fact, she was one of the discoverers of the dark matter existence, just with the rotation curves of the spiral galaxies. Previously, in the 30s, ICE-CSIC had suggested that it exists, also taking into account the dynamics of clusters of galaxies, but it was she was the one to detect see that there was some dark matter in spiral galaxies and say it. And in fact, it was, she presented her work in a meeting in the American Society, and there was a news in the newspaper in New York or something like that, just saying a women astronomer detect the origin of the universe or something like that. And there was also kind of a title that the press release had. So, and for the fourth wave, I've selected, of course, Andrea Ghez, who deserved the Nobel Prize in Physics in 2020 because of her study of star motions in the center of the Milky Way and the demonstration that, in fact, a supermassive black hole is living in the center of our own galaxy. She deserved the Nobel Prize together with Rainer Genzel. And I take her own words also, saying that I've always been interested in this question of how do you encourage girls to the sciences? And I think the best way you can do that is by succeeding, visibly succeeding. And I think that we can say that she succeeded, okay? Having the Nobel Prize. So just to put all this in context and going to the present time, here you have something that demonstrates that we are not talking about a question or an issue or a problem from the past times. This is very actual. We are talking about a world in which one of the sustainable development goals is called gender equality. Okay, so we are talking about something which is already in place. And there is some figures there, but I mean, I'll give more. I provide more numbers on the figures for gender equality nowadays. But this goal is devoted to achieve gender equality and empower our women and girls. And I think it's interesting also to know this was a word, and this is the numbers in Europe, because we can say yes, in the world is because there are third world countries that make numbers move or may worsen the numbers and so on. No. This is Europe, right? And in Europe, 45% of Europeans think that the most important role of a woman is to take care of her home and family. Europe. 33% of women in Europe have experienced physical or sexual violence, for instance. And this, I find this quite interesting. Out of high-performing students in math or science in the countries of the best income, 1 in 4 boys expect a career as an engineer or scientist, and compared to 1 in 6 girls, and 1 in 3 girls expect to work as health professionals compared to 1 in 8 boys. This is telling something. And this comes from this document, who has been prepared and written by the European Commission. And for instance, the share of men working in the digital sector is about 3 times greater than the share of women. And only 22% of artificial intelligence programmers are women. And this is quite important if we want to get to go to gender equality, and knowing the importance of artificial intelligence for the present already and for the next coming future. This is something that we will be scared about. More context in Europe. 16% pay gap in Europe in between women and men. 30% gender pension gap. Women, this is quite interesting as well. Women in Europe spend 22 hours per week on care and household work. That's good in the absolute or not, but in the relative, men spend 9 hours. And 80% of care in the Europe is provided by informal carers. 65% of whom are women. Many of them have a migrant background. This is the context we have in Europe. This is a report on gender equality in Europe, which is also interesting in the sense of looking at the highest positions, political positions there. You have the percentage of ministers up there. I don't know if I can use the laser. Yes. So you see here is about 30%, so not parity, of course. And these are the different roles, just core functions. So foreign and internal affairs, defense, justice. This is the lowest. Economy, this is not the lowest, it's the second lowest. The lowest is in economy. So less percentage of women even. Infrastructure is the average here in 32 more or less. And in health, education, social affairs, employment, family, culture, sports, we are a little bit high. So that's tracing what we think we are, right? And in fact, there is a report from the European Institute of Gender Equality, which takes into account many data, many information. This is tiny, so I think you don't read it, but they take into account violence, work, money, knowledge, time, power, and health, and this is quantified. And this is the index for France, for Spain, and for Germany, which we are the best now in the last report, but not by far. And but anyway, we are still far from 100%, which should be equality. And this is older than the one I have shown. So just for you to give you more context, you have here in the lower part that in Spain we have the organic law for effective equality between women and men that dating last 2007. We also have the Science, Technology and Innovation Law from 2011 and the updated in 2022, which extended the mandate to adopt gender equality plans and protocols to avoid sexual harassment from university to public research and funding, for instance. And we also have the recent Organic University Law in 2023, who also emphasizes the promotion of scientific projects with a gender perspective, as well as gender parity in research teams and mechanisms to facilitate the promotion of a higher number of women principal investigation. So this is already found as a problem in the system. The context in Spain. I think it's important to remind ourselves where we are starting from. Just to, I'm sure you're all aware of that, but just a reminder is that Spanish women could vote for the first time in last century in 1933. And it was for a very limited period of time. Then it was a big hole, a very big and dark hole afterwards. And so we are not ahead, the European countries, even if we are improving quite fast. But anyway, this is the context. This is nothing in time, less than one century. Okay, but to give you some numbers taken from this report from the ministry, scientific in numbers in 2023. This is a well-known scissors plot where you see here, well, you don't see, but I will tell you, you here see degree studies in university, master studies, doctoral studies, the lowest level in the university for the permanent staff, intermediates, and just going up to the highest ones. So for the CSIC would be the professor of research and catedrático for the university. And you see that even if women start with a higher percentage, close to 60% in the lowest level, and I mean just starting in the university, then this percentage goes down to 25 or something percent. Whereas for men, it's the opposite. This is the well-known scissors plot. And here you also have the numbers for what is called the glass ceiling parameter, which measures how far we are or how close to equality. And this is in different years, starting from 2016 to 2021 in the different fields. So you have the natural sciences here with the lowest number here. So we are improving. The closer we are to 1, the better it is, but we are still far from getting any fast change. You know, this is 1.86 and this is 1.62. So we are, at this pace, it is calculated that we will reach equality in 200 years or so. So in physics, what happens in physics? So we are coming little by little closer to astronomy. In physics, this comes from the specialist group of women in physics from the Spanish Royal Physics Society, thanks to Paz Garcia, who is the coordinator of this group. And this group was quite pioneer in the sense that it started working in 2002, which is quite soon with respect to other similar groups in Europe. And this is the numbers they provide. You see here the undergraduate students in physics Spain in a historic series from 1985 to 2021, where you see the number of men students and women students. And you see that there was a period in which the numbers were, I mean, the differences were getting smaller, but now it seems that they get greater again. So we are, the percentage of students, it was 27% and it's going down. It seems to be going down. And for graduates in physics, the same thing here. And for the same scissors, it's not even a scissors here because they are not crossing. But for a National Research Council into 2023, this is a percentage for pre-doc, postdocs, científico titular, investigador científico, profesor de investigación. That's so the first level, intermediate, and the highest level. And again, we have women in physics going from almost 27% for the pre-doc, then a little rise here for postdoc, but then going down to 16% for physics. And in the universities, you see that it's not much better, but it depends a lot on exactly what field in particular in physics. And you see that in astrophysics, astronomy, astrophysics is the dark blue here. We are around 25% in total. So this is the numbers and astronomy.
Can I ask one question?
Yes, of course.
So can you go back one slide?
Yes.
So the one you were mentioning, the top right, so the gender distribution in physics. So the postdoc level seems to be higher than pre-doc, right? Do you know if what the reason is for that?
No.
Is this some change in the hiring policy, imposing some quota?
There's no possibility of imposing any quota or whatever in the CSIC. It's impossible because it's the state thing. This is just CSIC. This is just CSIC. Okay. This is just CSIC and this is university, but not with there is no, that's just time for permanent staff here. Okay. So there's no known reason. And this is the general plot for every discipline in physics, but it changes quite a bit as it is for the universities. Yes.
Maybe it's men going to private sector.
Maybe, but normally women are more prone to leave than men.
I just wanted to comment that if around 2010 we had a closing gap and then it opened again, it checks out that now there are more women in a postdoctoral position with respect to doctoral.
That could be so. That could be so. Could be related to that. But anyway, when we see this plot since 2002, we don't see any special change. So yes.
Also on this, it might also be because for the postdocs sometimes, actually, when you do the call of postdocs, you allow people from physics, maths, engineers. So in the postdoc, you might have also students that come from maths, for example.
That could be.
While in the first one, you only have physics.
Yeah.
So the postdoc is considered physics, but you have students from other, so maybe that's why, I don't know.
Sure, maybe foreign aren't really.
Oh, foreign, some too. Foreign people.
Because to be a student as a foreigner is more, well, if you are outside Europe, it's more difficult. But as a postdoc,
it's something that had to be investigated,
Yeah.
but it's not so easy to know the origin.
Is it also, for example, the subjects that are listed at university? Are those
groups equally represented in CSIC, in the sense of is CSIC as an organization more focused on experimental or observational sides, or more theoretical, or is it equally?
We have everything. So, but the differences they have made here is made by the universe itself, and we made it differently because we have what we called now we all belong to the same area of material.
Mhm.
But before there were more areas within that one, including chemistry and physics and so on. So we separate things differently, and this is much more specialized than what we do in CSIC. But it's interesting to see that, for instance, theoretical physics is much worse than astronomy, and it's similar. I mean, cosmology normally have very few women. That's something that we know. Okay. So going to astronomy, I just make publicity of an exhibition that I strongly recommend you to visit. It's an online exhibition that you find in www.astronomers.org, where you find quite an important number of women astronomers in Spain and all over the world. So just to make the publicity here, so I stop publicity and go back to the things I want to talk about. We made for the year of astronomy, we made the first sociological study in astronomy concerning the situation of women in astronomy in Spain, and we revisited it in 2018, so 9 years later, and we made a publication in Nature Astronomy. And we gave the numbers and how they had changed from 2009 to 2018. And here you see the numbers. For instance, you see here the changes in the numbers in pre-docs, postdoc, and permanent, which are not very important anyway. So we reach about a higher percentage among pre-docs and postdoc than for permanent positions. That it's about 28%. In 2016 at the epoch, and here I put the same numbers but for 2023. So there is a small rise in the numbers. The biggest one is here because CSIC at the time had just one professoral investigation, and we've moved to 5. So that increased the number from 40% to 14%. That's good. But all the others are quite similar. And here's the same kind of information, but for the paper, but for the report from the Spanish Astronomical Society in 2023, in 22, sorry. So with the giving information on the Spanish, the change of women, it's the same kind of a plot we had. And we never get up to parity. Parity is from 40 to 60%. We are quite far from parity in astronomy. We have good news. We had the first women president of the Spanish Astronomical Society in 2016, in a society that started in 1992. Good news. And this is something that I like also to point out is how are the women in what I call women in the highest. So women that had received the most prestigious, or among the most prestigious, I don't know if some very prestigious prize is missing in what I'm telling, but I mean, I've tried to take the most prestigious ones. And for instance, we have the Golden Medal of the Royal Astronomical Society that started 1 century ago. And I've already told you that Caroline Herschel was the first one. We had to wait until 1986 to have the second one. And then we got 2 in 2020-21. So a little bit of rise. You will see this tendency of having a little bit of rise in the last, let's say, 5 years of the number of women getting these prizes. But anyway, 2%. The Bruce Medal of the Astronomical Society of the Pacific in the United States, starting also last century. And among the 100 here, I mean, the statistics is not a problem here, okay? Because sometimes we are told that small numbers and whatever, 211, 5 women, okay? So 2%. Bruce Medal, 116, 6%. And we have many of the women I'm listing here are repeated. So they're the same women, okay? Mostly. Margaret Burbidge, Charlotte Sidley, Vera Rubin, she's here, Sandra Faber is there, Martha Haynes, you will see later on, and then good Marcia Ricky. You know, here from 2019 to 2023, three more, I mean, doubling the number of women that we had. We have the Henry Norris Russell Lecture Suites in the United States as well, starting in 1946, 7 out of 76, 9%. And we have again, well, we have Cecilia Pine, hopefully, Margaret Burbidge again, Vera Rubin again, Sandra Faber again, and then we have Netta Buckle and others. The Jansky Lecture Suites from the National Radio Astronomy Observatory in USA, 14%. Gruber Foundation Prize in Cosmology, 80%. And again, you see this, there's a kind of systematic to having more women. We have to, I mean, it seems to be a relationship of the whole population being aware of the inequalities, and by chance, there is a rise in the number of women getting prizes. Marcia Ricky again, Françoise Combe, over there. I mean, I don't know if you know all of the faces that I wanted to show some of them. The Kavli Foundation Prize, 11%. Now the numbers are smaller, of course, but again, here, Craft for Astronomy, this is a Swedish prize, 1/3, 10%. And these are 2 in 2024 at the same time. The Shaw Prize for Astronomy, 4 out of 36, again, 2 in 21 and 1 in 23, and one, the Nobel I already told you, by Andrea Ghez in 2020. In fact, just coming back to the Nobel Prizes, among the almost 220 prizes provided in physics, 5 have been awarded to women. So I named them here, in addition to Andrea Ghez, who is astrophysics, Marie Curie, Maria Weber-Meyer, Donna Strickland, and Villiers, just last year. So more women in the highest, in top positions in the International Astronomical Union, an organization that started life in 1999. The first woman president was elected in 2006, Catherine Tesasky, but then we've got another 3 presidents, Silvia Torres Castilleja, Evin van Dishoek, and now we have a women president, Deborah Ilmegren. And I like to name them just, I mean, to know that they are important. This is coming back to the paper we published in Nature Astronomy. We made a comparison of Spain with the other countries in the world, just making the statistics with the number of provided by IAU, but just taking into account the countries where there were more than 100 members. So you see here in orange, there's the non-European countries, and in green, the European countries, and Spain is the light green here. So you see, on average, the percentage of women belonging to the International Astronomical Union is was as high as 16%. And we were a little bit better than the average. And the best was Argentina, Aldo. And the worst, Japan, with not even 10% women. So I have just 3 days ago or so updated this plot, but just make it, I mean, just changing the numbers for today, or 2 days ago from the IAU information, the webpage, but staying in the same position, I mean, leaving the same position for the countries, just for you to know how this changes. So the great news is that the number has increased. So we are now in average of almost 22%, which is not bad. And Argentina is still winning. Congratulations. And we are here in Spain again, a little bit higher than average, and Japan is still in 90% or so. So it seems that numbers are changing a little bit. So we hope that we are in the good way, and that we will go on improving. We need, I mean, just to change number drastically, we would need more than that, because as I was saying, it'll mean parity in 100 or 150 years or so. So here, this is another advertising post. I mean, just for publicity, and this is because I like to put this plot again, the publicity of the astronomers. Please go ahead, go and have a look on that. But also, I love very much this picture here, Moreover, because it's good for me, I love to be here talking today, which is the 14th of June, about women equality and astronomy and so on and so forth, but because some years before, I mean, not that many years before, the only occasion in which we could have talk about that was in this period, from the 11th February to the 8th of March, because it's the month in which we all know women exist, right? So it's good for me to be here in June and talking about this. Thank you for having invited me. And it's also because this is me, right? No, I'm just joking. So the answer for the question that I posed at the beginning, is astronomy a women's thing? I think, yes, it is. It is a woman thing, mainly because in the words by Vera Rubin, still more mysteries of the universe remain hidden. The discovery awaits the adventurous scientists of the future. And we are there, of course. We have to. And that's all.
Thank you very much for the great talk. Okay, question?
Yes?
What to do?
What to do? There are things that have been doing, for instance, since the first study we made, a whole wave started of trying to make, for instance, the proposals, observing proposals anonymous. And it changed things. Once they started making them anonymous by mysterious hazard, then the percentage of women started to go, to get higher. For instance, in some countries, it's possible to make specific policies to increase the number of women. In Spain, we don't know how to do that because we are told that it's unconstitutional. But when you go to the constitution itself, or to even higher other international documents from the United Nations, for instance, it is said that the countries should fight for changing things, making positive actions during a limited time of a period of time to change things that are not correctly working. So we have the tools to make things change. I think that it's a question of volunteer.
But the problem starts already. Concerns CSIC, for example.
No. It's very complicated. Yeah, it's even more complicated than liners, because it's a question that arises at the very early period of the person consciousness, because we all have women, men, whatever. We all have biases, and we treat people differently if they are women or men since the very beginning. So it's already proven that kids at the age of 5 or 6 start thinking about themselves in a different way, and that's very important, because if you think that you are not able to do something, you are not prone to go in that direction, and that's a problem. That's why the day of girls in science is there, just to raise the question. I think one of the very first things to do is just to try to convince people that we all have biases, because the main problem is that people think that I'm not biased. I'm not biased. I just do things that it's nature who makes things like this, and it is not, and it is proven already scientifically. So we also should be aware that we all of us, every person on Earth is biased, because this is within our nature. This is for making life easier. In making decisions, we are biased, and we have prejudices and stereotypes. That's for solving questions fast. But we all should be aware of that. It's the only way to fight against. Otherwise, there will be no change, because we have to recognize and make things differently from the very beginning, and not only in our workplace. If we are parents, we have to take that into account as well. If we are citizens, we have to take that into account. It should be embedded on everyone's life. And that's much more complicated. And moreover, taking into account that there is a kind of a emergence of movements saying that we are saying nonsense.
Thank you very much. You were showing one plot where you have the different countries and the percentages. And at some point, you talked a little bit like, we're winning, like that. So for you personally, what is the goal? It's 50%. It's absolute parity. Is it possible that there are other solutions?
No, like what?
I mean, if you exclude biases and all the obstacles, because we all see them and we understand that women find obstacles in the way to do such career. But is actually the absolute, let's say, equity reaching the 50%? It's also equality in numbers.
I would say that if we all could have the same opportunities and the same freedom for choosing what we do, since we are 50-50 more or less, that's what parity means, more or less, between 40 and 60. The same thing should be seen in this kind of plots for whatever. I mean, if I plot the same thing, but for care careers, for health careers, it would be the opposite.
Yeah. What I was going to ask is that, what are the recent studies about the gender equality paradox? Because I remember these results that when you increase the equality and equity in a country, you tend to increase the gap instead. For example, we see it here. Right?
Yeah.
So we see Sweden, Norway, whatever, they have lower numbers. And these are countries that are trying for 40 years now to equalize the opportunities and give equal chances to both genders and all kinds of people to enter different careers. And in these countries, they observe that people go and prefer different stuff because of social biases, I guess, because of other things. But what I'm saying is that maybe it's 55% for astronomy. Maybe women should be 55%, not 50%.
I mean, it's more or less plus error bar. I mean, it doesn't matter if it's 50 or 40 or 55. Exactly. But the main, just to have a comment on that, what is already studied and published is that there is a correlation between what people in a country think it's powerful and the percentage of men in that field. So in the countries where science is very well perceived and is very well related to things that are useful and powerful, then the percentage of men increases. And in countries where science is considered not to be important, then the percentage of women increases. Because power is related to men society, I mean, in our culture. And this is very difficult to change, even in the modern countries where they put a lot of effort and so on. It's a question of changing mentalities, and it's not that easy and that fast.
Yeah, so that brings me to my second question. Sorry for taking the time. So I'm wondering in other careers, because we're talking about different career choices, I guess, or success in different careers. Are there campaigns to increase the number of men in healthcare, for example? Because if you're trying to invite women,
yes, they are as the same
other careers,
as they are for improving the percentage of men as being for teaching in small kids school, which is also a difference. I mean, it's incredible. But it's also, I mean, it's amazing that, for instance, you have for teaching kids at school, you have a percentage which is 90-something% of women teachers and 90-something% of school directors being men. Yes. Yes.
Thanks for the talk. And I have a question. Like the other day I have, because also you say that there is this decrease is because women leave academia, and like 1 month ago I asked myself, like, why women leave academia? And I asked Google, and it says harsh workplace climate, which can include harassment and feelings of not belonging. And I wanted to ask you about your opinion also in your careers. I think you could see all your research women what they have to handle. So
I don't have numbers. I mean, there's if you have the opportunity of reading the social study, the sociological study, even if it dates from 2009, the answers could be easily applied to nowadays. And for instance, we made a kind of interviews to groups of people, of pre-docs and postdoc and seniors, and there were sometimes were made separately, women in one side, one hand, and men in the other. And when talking with them in informal questions, in the group of women, the question of having kids spontaneously arose. Whereas in the men group, we were forced to ask that because it never appeared as a question, as an issue. And just to come back to one point, we are astronomers, so we are specialists on making life from just one point. My point by myself, I was telling Nanda this morning, when I got pregnant for the first time, I was asked by one of my colleagues if I was going to leave research. And so I told him, you have 2 kids, right? So this is the kind of thing we are facing. We have the imposter syndrome that even Jocelyn Bell had. So, I mean, many things to change. And starting, I mean, one of the things that, going back to Aldo's question, I think one of the main things to do is just to be able to convince. I'm very, very glad that there are so many men here in this audience, because normally when you organize some kind of these equity things, they're just women. We need everyone here, because we're changing because we all are changing things. So that's one of the main points, just to.
I have a question, or maybe it's sort of a proposal, and see what do you think if this can help or not. So one of the things probably that, so if you go to an institute, whatever, and all the professors are half women, half men, probably if you're young, you will feel less imposter syndrome. Why? Because you see that the fact that you reach the high levels, it doesn't depend on whether you're a woman or a man, whatever. It will depend on other things, and there are many things, but still not this, right? So do you think that if for the next 10 years, only the high-level CSIC professorship open will be one every other year, just women, in 10 years, we might see a change also below or not?
I think so, because it's proven that groups that are led by women have more women everywhere.
Because in the Netherlands, for example, which I think in general it's worse than here, what they started to do 10 years ago, it's exactly this. So all the high levels, all professorship, every other year had to be women, with all what, it comes that you got the professorship only because you're a woman, otherwise you have no making. It's okay. But you just keep going for 10 years and then things gets better. So
they've done it even faster in Australia. So this is not my thinking, it's a reality. They've taken this kind of approach, increasing not only the promotions for women in the highest position, but also hiring postdocs and giving them the possibility of hiring people and making groups and leading projects. It has been done in Australia, and it has changed things in 5 years' time.
So since you have seemingly a lot of experience with these things, do you have any feeling of is it better to approach this from a top-down approach angle, or a bottom-up of like encouraging women into encouraging entry?
I'm not sure having the answer, but I think that it's both directions. Both are needed. Yeah. But we have to embark men. If they are not convinced, we will be all the time fighting. And it's very tiring to fight. We have to fight because we are the only women in the audience. And in fact, half of the audience, of the main audience, is telling you, as Nanda was saying, that you're there because you're a woman, not because you deserve it. Or you're in a meeting and you say something and nobody hears what you have said. And then a main colleague says the same thing 5 minutes later. Oh, it's a great idea. And she says, so stupid. Things like that. And then you have to fight also because since you are women, you are asked to be in committees. So you have to use most of the time that you had supposed to have to make science, and that you have to make this, and if you are convinced, you say, I have to do it because it's worth doing. And so we fight all the time. It's very tiring. So we have to share that fight, I think.
How have you managed personally to not get tired of the fight? Because you're still fighting and you are in a high position.
Yeah, I think that I'm quite, I don't know how to say it in English, when you're hard-minded. Exactly. And I was it since I was very young. I mean, even before knowing whatever feminism existed or whatever, I remind myself, I mean, when I was a child, and my grandmother said that I had to make the bed for my brother, and said, well, why? And things like that were at use when I was a child. And it's some kind of natural that I don't stop fighting, at least today, up to today.
Do you think that this is also a sort of a bias that we also have, because we had to be like this to survive, right? So what happened? But it's sort of, in an ideal world, you shouldn't behave as a man and be as competitive, have this feeling just to succeed, because this is not what science needs, right? No. But at the moment, this is the case. So what do you think might sort of change this in the future? Is there anything that...
I think we should all learn how to approach things and giving them value, because we are passionate about that. That's all. Yeah. And because we are human beings. But I think it's difficult because, I mean, we have a long history of societal behaviors, and there are many things to change. But if we are aware of our biases, it should be easier.
No more question? Okay, so let's...
We have, sorry. We have some questions on Zoom.
Maybe if we turn a little bit up the volume. Emily, can you hear us?
Yes, yes.
Okay, go ahead.
They say that they have questions.
Okay.
Yeah, well, one was me, and Alessio wrote also had a question.
Okay, I don't see it. It's here. No, I guess. Okay, here. Okay, if you want, you can ask. Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to ask if on that plot, actually, maybe you've mentioned this and I missed it, but do we know why Argentina has been doing so well?
We should ask Aldo. Why Argentina is doing so well?
I don't know, but you mentioned before about the feeling that people have about science, and I imagine that that's probably not the case here, in the sense that if you will go to theoretical physics in Argentina, this will be completely different. But somehow where I studied here, the proportion, the ratio between men and women was always high. The reason, I have no idea.
Maybe because Argentinian
for all science is very peculiar.
Yeah, because maybe Argentinian think that astronomy is something for fun.
Maybe, I don't know, but the other, more, let's say, harder sciences, they say completely different.
Yeah, because I thought it kind of, well, it stands out for sure, but also compared to, let's say, Chile, where astronomy is definitely a big field. So I was wondering if it's really more like a societal effect, or if it was a plan, if they had took concrete action to get to that number.
I think that we can note is the maximum. Yes, the maximum.
Yeah,
Asia said that she would expect Chile to behave the same as Argentina. And I don't remember what did you say, Emily? Sorry.
Well, no, it's not. I would expect. It's just.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's just. I was wondering if in Argentina they took concrete action to get that high number, because if it's more societal, maybe you would expect something like Chile, where actually Chile, you have a big astronomy community there, and it's not doing well. So I mean, they're close in proximity culture, maybe a bit, and
okay.
so I was saying, okay, that there's a big gap between these two neighboring countries.
But
Latin America.
But going closer to the European countries, we see that Italy and France are doing much better than we are doing. So
Right.
I know that I don't know if there is something also to do with the role models in specific fields. And I do know that they have role models in France, women role models in astronomy in France, strong role models.
Yeah, I want to give a comment because this is also biased in the
Yeah.
sense that these statistics are for people that they
Belong to the
belong to the international.
International Astronomical.
So in some countries, they prefer to spend the money in other priorities that pay the membership for each person. That is a lot of money per year.
There is also a question here is that, for instance, for Spain, as you've seen before and now, the percentage is smaller than the whole population of women in astronomy. And this is mainly because the new numbers are young people. And for the young junior members, we have been also facing the problem that women don't ask to become members of the IAU. This year is the first year in which the percentage is 50-50 for junior members. So it's something also to take into account. These are, let's say, senior astronomers mostly.
But it's true here, someone is pointing that the IAU is, you don't have to pay. It's a European astronomy.
Yeah, you don't pay yourself.
Yes.
It's a country.
Colombia, they have to pay, and that's why there are only 5 people. So they select like one university, and they have to say.
Yeah, countries pay. The country is paying. The country, not individuals.
Yes.
Not individuals.
Yeah, so depend on the country, they decide what is more important, if to be part of the statistics, because not all people go to the conference, or to spend money in a telescope or trips or pay papers. It's a
Yeah, but it doesn't change the thing that you can become a member once your country is paying to become a member of the IAU. Then you can register yourself as a member, just asking to pass the conditions that you have to become
for example,
a
I
member.
have never been a member, and I have been in astronomy for many years.
But you know how to become a member?
No. I haven't. So
What happens with membership if you move country?
You have to change it, update.
I think that you have to change.
So if the new country will not pay,
Doesn't matter. Yeah, but in here, there is another bias, which is the one that I put right on the top, which is that I just selected countries with more than 100 members just to get rid of small number statistics, right? So there are many more countries that belong to the IAU, but they are not there because the number of total members in the IAU are smaller than 100. And in fact, the countries pay, and the payment, the tax, the money they pay depends on the economic level of the country. So not all the countries depend on the number of the members and also in the level of income in the country.
Professor, you want to ask something? I so that you were like.
I agree with
Okay.
Claudia that there are also these economical aspects or whatever. It's very.
There was another question.
Just taking into account the age effects, that these members ended at different periods and different times. So, for example, you were saying Nobel laureates, right? Of course, there's going to be less than 10% because most of the statistics are coming before the 50s. It's not normalized by the number of people in science.
I will tell you that it doesn't depend of just letting things evolve with time, because we have been doing this kind of analysis in the 2000s and even 1990 something, and it's exactly the same. So it's
It didn't improve at all.
No,
Yeah.
So it doesn't mean, that with the number of that's okay, but with the scissors diagrams in the countries, for instance, it hasn't changed a lot.
Yeah.
So it means that it's not a question of just waiting for the people who started because we started later, women in Spain, for instance, and we have to wait until that people to have the age of becoming professors or whatever. No, it's not that. It's not that.
there's a comment. I'm looking here on internet and they said that you need to be nominated to be member of the National Committee.
Yeah, but you ask
You are
for being nominated. You at least in Spain, you send an email to Rafa Bachiller just saying that you want to become a member, and you send your papers and your something, and it is. I mean, it's nothing more than that. It's not
But we
complicated.
usually send in the institute every year when there is the opening. Because
Yeah.
you can also enter as a young member or as a senior.
It's a senior, exactly.
So, and every year we send a note sent to this person, which is not much.
So there's
Fine.
a deadline, and
Just-
then you
Just
send your
read
documents.
a
And that's
few
it.
things, and that's it. It's automatic.
He had the same question as Emily, so I think.
Okay,
it was
because with
already
these
answered.
glasses, I don't see the screen in here.
Okay. Okay, so there is no more questions. Okay, so let's thank Isabel again.
I thank you for being here on a Friday afternoon, so thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot. Very nice talk.
Yes.
Thank you.
Would they be available